you cunt! Shut it!
I hope you're all having a... Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everyone. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Boy, this thing is either really slow or I don't know. But, yeah. Episode 20, I believe. Yes, 20 of MCU Sundays, Infinity Saga Sundays, whatever you want to call it. We're back. And we got the Hat Crew. Nerd with a Cigar.
Hello.
There. Riot Kitty.
Hello.
And Jacob Berry.
Howdy.
And we're missing two others, but they cannot make it, sadly. One is high on, what is it, caramel corn and Brave Wave. And another is, well, having family time. So that just leaves us and you guys at home showing support for the Hat Crew and all involved. Thank you so much for joining, and let's say hello to the chat. We got Vanya, one of the loyals. Good to see you.
Hello.
And yes, that thing didn't even show up until like 3 seconds after I clicked it, and leaves 3 seconds after.
It was timed good for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's timed good for everybody else, but my freaking computer is just
Darn.
weird, I guess. Well, it
Darn
is
computer.
also. It's a dying Chromebook, so yeah. Don't worry, folks. I'll have a better Chromebook later. I guess. Maybe. Who knows? Anywho, so did we all watch Ant-Man and the Wasp? Or did you all accidentally watch Captain Marvel?
No, I watched Ant-Man and Wasp.
I was accidentally watching Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania for a bit.
I
Yeah.
almost started Captain Marvel, but then I happened to go on and check the thumbnail, and I was like, okay, got it.
That's
Yeah,
because
that's
I was searching for it because it has Ant-Man and the Wasp in the title as well. I'm like, oh wait, no.
So the movie kicks off immediately with a scene from a reiteration of the first movie, which was Michael Douglas telling the story of how he lost Janet. And this time we have the beautiful, de-aged Michelle Pfeiffer playing Janet. And I gotta say, this was very good de-aging. I mean, that de-aging looked very solid. Not gonna lie. And so he's retelling the story to his daughter, and then he shows him the quantum tunnel, and I'm thinking to myself, what sort of evil miniaturized sorcery are you going to come up with now? You know? And then we also remember that Scott Lang is on house arrest from Infinity War. We learn about him being put on house arrest. Let's see here. Infinity Saga Sunday. And let's see here. So then, did this movie even have an opening title display, or was it just MCU Studios with the 10-year thingy on it? Because I keep watching this movie and I don't see Ant-Man and the Wasp at the beginning.
I think it was the 10-year thing because, well, I don't usually pay attention super much to the Marvel things in the beginning because they've progressively gotten longer. But I also don't remember seeing Ant-Man and Wasp in the opening sequence thing.
Yeah, I thought it was at the end. Didn't it come up Ant-Man and the Wasp as the credits, or just before the credits rolled? That's what
I think you're right.
Want to say.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Could be one of those movies with no title, like Shrek.
Yeah, probably.
It's upcoming.
Yeah, alrighty. So there's that. And we then see Scott and Cassie in the play tunnel. And what's his name? Pena plays Louise. Doing the puppetry for the ants and stuff. Oh my god. This whole house arrest thing with him playing with his daughter is so freaking cute. I mean, he's basically teaching her to kind of hate the police in a way. Oh no, the fuzz! And it's like, wow. I would teach my daughter a healthy respect for law enforcement, but okay. But I love it. And the crash outside where his ankle accidentally breaks perimeter is like a great way of setting up what kind of happens when you're on house arrest. I mean, I know what happens to people on house arrest. I've been around people who have been. And it's never fun for them because it's literally, if you do break the perimeter, it is a search. It is a full-on freaking cavity search, house search. And yeah, it's very violating. They don't show what happens to the person wearing the bracelet or the anklet. Because, yeah, when I say cavity search, clothes off. Just to make sure. But anyway, what did you all think of the nice little house arrest scene where he's learning freaking card magic tricks and doing all the stuff with Cassie? What did you all think of that? We'll start, ladies, first with Kate.
I thought it was a great scene because you got to see, like, it was very relatable to anybody who, gets stuck in their house and, has to come up with, like, ways to entertain themselves or, like, the whole first movie was him trying to, like, have a, better himself to have a better relationship with his daughter. So I thought that was great with their little interaction with Cassie and stuff. But yeah, it was funny. He's like, because he's lamenting about it, like, oh, I taught myself, magic, and he's not like super happy about it. You can tell he's still like bored and stuff about it. But I thought it was relatable because, like, I've been bored at home, during COVID or whatever, when you're stuck inside and there's nothing to do and you're like, oh, what can I do?
Yeah, it's like, I learned that. Riot, what did you think of it?
It was super adorable. I love the improvement in the relationship, with like, obviously later we see that, like, yeah, the ex-wife and the boyfriend are actually, like, allowing Scott to spend time with his daughter, like all that stuff. Like, he's kind of, like a bit of like redeemed himself in their eyes and like his buddy with him now. So like, yeah, and like he gets to spend time with his daughter. It's like super cute how, like, he like made this whole setup for her so that they can play together even though they couldn't go outside, right? Because he's under house arrest. So yeah, I just really love that their dynamic. It's super cute. And Quantumania, I wanted to throw my phone out the window. Okay.
Right.
That's a different story.
Yes, it is. And Jacob.
I really like this scene. This is back when, fathers mattered, and in Marvel, or in Disney in general. But one of the things that I like about it is it shows just how good of a father that Ant-Man is, that he really wants to do what's right by his little girl. And even under house arrest, the great lengths he'll go to keep her entertained. I think it really shows that is a really high priority in Scott's life. And like Riot Kitty said, I was wanting to throw, in my case, I wanted to throw my controller at the TV because I was watching Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania on my PS5.
Oh god.
And yeah, I didn't do that, fortunately. The PS5 remotes are very expensive. Our controllers are very expensive. So,
yeah, it's like, yeah, like that'd be $1,200.
Exactly. But anyway, it was a lot. It was really good. I really liked the scene. The whole tunnel sequence I thought was just fantastic. I loved that you can see that, and I think that's something that any dad could relate to. I'm not a father myself, but I just remember, like, when my dad would want to do something for me and my sister, the great lengths he would go to make it really cool. So I could definitely, like everyone else has said, just to not to sound repetitive, but I really think it made him the relatable hero. So Captain America's kind of out of time. Tony Stark's very rich. Thor's an alien, but with Scott, you've got this relatable guy. He's done some time, he's made some mistakes, but he wants to do right by his daughter, and I think that's something that really connects us to his character.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said.
And Paul Rudd, he plays it perfectly. I mean, he's also got the comedy routine down too. So 3 days till freedom. He's got 3 more days of house arrest, and he's got to keep himself freaking entertained for 3 days. So he has that drum set that he's doing. He knows how to bounce a ball off the wall to score a freaking swish, mind you, with that little basketball hoop. And then he takes his bath with his leg wrapped up in the ankle bracelet so it doesn't get wet. And he then has the quantum.
All right, bazap.
Yep. He then gets the quantum dream of Janet and sees that he's a woman in a dream. He's like, what the fuck? So he then calls up Hank using a phone that he pulls out of the wall and then breaks because, well, yeah, he's not supposed to have any contact with them due to the Soviet Accords. And also Hank and Janet, or Hank and Hope, are on the run because of his stupidity in going to Germany. So yeah, he may be building back his life up, but he kind of fucked over Hank and Hope. So we then get to the knockout from Wasp because everybody's like, "What the hell?" You don't even see her; you just see the wings, which is kind of cool. Yeah, you see a little bit, and then you hear the zip and right in the neck, and it's like, I just love how he's like, ah. And I gotta say, that kidnapping scene is pretty good because you got giant pigeons, got giant cars, and I'm thinking to myself, Evangeline Lilly just looks like she's ready to murder. So yeah. We then see that Hank is working on that quantum tunnel. And I gotta say, when you see a bunch of giant ants and whatnot walking next to everybody, I'm thinking to myself, I thought it affects your equilibrium when you don't have the helmet, Hank. Because it is kind of weird, you know? So what were your guys' thoughts on the kidnapping and the 3 days of trying to do different stuff and whatnot and reuniting with Hank and Hope? Start with Riot this time.
At first, with like the whole like dream sequence thing, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" Because he's just like randomly, like it just closes his eyes and it's like, and I also like like, you know, the expression he, or I guess rather Michelle Pfeiffer gives the beer. It's like, it's just like it just pulls back out.
Huh?
And then that's kind of like the catalyst for like the whole movie happening, pretty much. Yeah, and that, yeah, and like, yeah, at first I wasn't really sure what I saw, but then like, yeah, it's like Evangeline Lilly in the car, and I'm like, oh, it was Hope. It was Hope.
Yeah.
And then yeah, she definitely does not look very happy to see him, even though she did kidnap him for understandable
She also does
reasons.
kind of look like she's run down too. I mean, that shirt she's wearing, or that over shirt she's wearing, it looks like she's been down on her luck. Looks like she's been on the run.
Well, yeah, that's pretty good costuming there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, honestly, like the giant pigeons actually like spooked me. I'm like, oh my god, what the?
Those were kind of a trip when I first saw the movie.
That like spooked me a bit. I'm gonna be real, but yeah, and then it's a very creative way of being on the run. You just shrink yourself down, and you're like driving around, like.
Yeah.
All
right. Kate.
Just like the way that she looked, I like the question that I had was, how long has she been this small? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how long has she been, you know, obviously we know how long because he's been, they give us a timeline, but you're like, man, she's looking a little rough. But it was like this movie in particular. I know MCU does this overall like now, but they have a good job with like the humor of it. Because again, like the pigeon thing, I don't know why the eyeball freaked me out, but it was like I laughed the first time I saw it. I was like, haha, giant pigeon, and then I was like, oh, that's kind of creepy. But no, I thought it was great. Just little like opening action sequence, if that makes sense. And my cat has things to say as well, so I apologize.
Hello, cat.
Anywho, Jacob.
I mean, I get why Scott's actions would have affected them, the Pims, but I have to admit I was a little confused as to what the consequences of that were. So they're on the run, but aren't they like running a company? Like, is someone else just running the company in their absence? So I'm just saying, in the theaters, I know they kind of answer some of these questions later on, but I was confused. I was like, wait, so they're just on the run and they're not talking about, oh,
their technology was in violation of the Sokovia Accords.
Right, but it's
his use of it. So then that made them proxy abettors.
Well, no. I understand that. I'm just saying that kind of like that sequence kind of confused me. It felt like it was really rushed. Like, it's like, oh yeah, we're on the run because of what you did in Germany, and now we're doing this and blah blah blah. We violated the Sokovia Accords, but it was just. But anyway, on the outset, yeah, I really like Evangeline Lilly as an actress. I think that seeing her as the Wasp is always a treat. That's actually one of my biggest complaints of Quantumania is she took a back seat to Cassie, and really she should have been the main female character in that one. But I really like her. I like Michael Douglas as Hank Pym, and so getting to see I saw this one in theaters. And I know we'll get to the scene. Well, no, I'll wait till we actually get to that scene when they have the chase scene with giant Hello Kitty stuff. But I really like. I thought it was a good intro into what's going on and the consequences of Scott's actions, because sometimes you don't see that in the MCU as much as I like the first three phases. Sometimes you don't always see the consequences of people's actions. So I like how that transitioned into this Ant-Man sequel. I thought okay. Even though I thought it was kind of rushed, I do think that, okay, I'm glad we're here. This was a real world consequence that happened as a result of Scott's action, and now he has to make up for it. So I really think that was a really good writing on the team's part.
All righty. And you're absolutely right with the whole, you don't really see it. It was actually Civil War that brought it home. The consequences of their actions, no matter how heroic, still ends up with collateral damage. Because I like how Ross actually showed them. It's like, New York, the stuff you didn't see. Washington, D.C., the stuff you didn't see. Sokovia, the stuff you didn't see. Nigeria, the stuff you didn't see. Wherever you guys go.
Yeah. No, what I do like as well is that, like we've always had the Avengers up until like the Sokovia Accords be in unison. And we know that they've been building up to Thanos. So now to have the MCU where it is, or then I guess during the making of this film, of like where they are in the timeline, to see everybody kind of scattered and infighting, and somebody's on house arrest, some are in hiding, etc.
Ant-Man
the stakes are higher for like when Thanos comes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like Ant-Man and the Wasp is great tying back to like Civil War and the consequences of Scott's actions from that. So
yep, because this movie is actually twofold time jump wise, because the beginning of it is pre-snap. Right. And the post-credit scenes are post-snap, or actually moment of snap and then post-snap. And I actually do like how they set that up too, because it's like, oh shit, everybody's like, what the hell happened? What the hell? Oh shit, yeah, that happened. So the next scene, I love how Michael Douglas is so pissed off with Hank. He's like, tell me you destroyed the suit. He's like, of course I destroyed the suit. I can't believe you destroyed my suit. That was my life's work. I mean, I'm thinking to myself, damned if you do, damned if you don't, man.
Basically, story of Scott's life, for real.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, that was my life's work. So they have to go and meet with a guy played by Walton Goggins, great actor who is typecast to be sleazy people. I recently seen him in The Shield because I watched The Shield for the first time and caught it or finally finished it out. And I'm thinking to myself, he may have been a good cop at one point, but man, when he went dark, he went fucking dark. And also him in Predators, playing the convict. Let's just say that is one guy that I would have shivved in a heartbeat. Because they usually do. But him as this sleazy restaurant owner who does black market tech deals. And we also see that they are being followed by some weird shape that's kind of fluxing in and out of reality before they go to the restaurant. And so he drops the bomb on Janet that he knows exactly who she is. She's like, your name's not Susan, it's Hope Van Dyne. And that your father and you are building something pretty juicy in that lab of yours. And it's like, all right, now it's fucked over. And I like how Scott's like, can I have one, or can I have an Altoid? No. And he's like, can I please have one? No. It's like, I just love those scenes, man. And so then when she goes in as Wasp and starts kicking ass, he's like, she's got lasers and wings. Did you have that? Or I'm guessing you didn't have that stuff when you were helping me. Oh, I did. I mean, freaking Michael Douglas plays that so freaking well. And that setting up the Altoid tin is actually pretty good. So when he actually has to go in, because she's doing pretty well handling herself until Ghost shows up. And as pissed off as Hank is, he's like, wait! This is a work in progress. So he gives him the new suit. And I'm thinking to myself, that old suit had a different looking helmet. Why is it new or why is it back to the old helmet when he gets the new suit, you know? Because did you all notice in Civil War he had a different helmet?
Yes, I did. It was
Yeah.
it wasn't it because he mentioned doing Giant Man, so it was a newer suit to compensate for that, I imagine. Just throwing out a guess.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing so.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think that it's kind of like in the movie too. Like they're like, oh, like a Goliath thing. Like it's just
the Project Goliath.
It was able to grow.
Kate?
Yeah, I just the same thing. I figured it was either stylistic or it was the Giant Man suit, or I figured they would have a few different helmet types for, like whatever they needed him to do, like, something more battle or something more shrinkage. I just figured it was a stylistic thing because they'll change, if you notice, they'll change like other people's suits in like little ways, like little details. So
Yep.
I didn't really read much into it, but
yeah. One thing too, that is new. One thing I think also is in the comics he couldn't use the same suit to grow and shrink. So maybe that's why they did that. Now in Civil War he does, and I think also in Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes he does. But mechanically, he had to swap suits, which is why one of the reasons Scott Lang ended up staying as Ant-Man in the comic books was because he always had to wear the Giant Man or Yellow Jacket suit. So actually, I think later they made it where he had a suit that could do both. But prior to that, it was he always had to swap it. Some other nerd may correct me, but from what I remember reading in the old Avengers stories, that might have been like a reference to that later on.
All right. And so then we get the ghost battle, and that doesn't go their way. And I like how she actually goes after Hank when she realizes she's out of her league, and she puts her hand through his neck, which is like, I'm thinking to myself, all she has to do is slip her control just a little bit, and that dude is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
And
like freaking like hole in the neck dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we then see that they need to regroup. And I love Hank. He's like, well, we can go to my house. They'll probably be looking for you there. Okay, then we can go to your house. No, wait, that's about it. Well, there is one place. No. And it turns out the Wombats, as he calls them in the first movie. I call them the Wombats anyway. And so they're all doing their security business. And they're talking about how to get into the lab again, how to get to the lab, how to track the lab. And, well, they end up hearing about Baba Yaga from The Russian, played by David Dastmalchian. Didn't you meet him, Jacob?
He was Polka Dot Man in Suicide Squad, right?
I think so.
Yeah, yes, I did meet him. He's the one from the... Yes, I met him at a comic... You're right. I met him at a comic book store. Yeah, I shared the photo with you. Yeah. He's a super nice guy. He just popped in and was like, hey, I'm dropping off some stuff. And I guess he knew the comic book store owner. And so he's like, hey, I'm just dropping in to give you stuff to sell. And all of us are like... At first, we didn't recognize him because he was wearing a mask, because it was just when stuff was starting to open in LA. So we were all still masking because we're under tyranny there. Yeah. And but yeah, I remember he walked in, and at first we didn't know who he was, but then we heard his voice, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, it's him!"
He's been in movies like Dark Knight.
Yeah, had a small role in that.
Yeah, he had a small role in that. Recently, he was in The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
He was in The Boston Strangler. That was a good film.
He was in
he played a really creepy guy in that. Yeah, he's a good actor. He's kind of been typecast, which I feel bad for him because he's actually, like in Boston Strangler, he plays a totally different character than he does in other films. Still a villain, but a totally different kind of villain. So highly. By the way, that movie's not that good, but his acting in it is good.
He's a good.
It's interesting. Like it's interesting. He took a more comedic role in the end.
Yeah, and he's like,
and it's like Baba Yaga. It'll stage.
Baba Yaga, and he starts singing when she shows up and whatnot. It's funny, but so then we also see the cut to Ghost, who is Ava Starr in this iteration, because I do believe Ghost is a male in the comics. And but
in Iron Man Armored Adventures he does show up, so
yeah,
and stuff. So,
and if you notice how her molecular structure is in flux, you can see future bits of her before she does it as she's moving towards it, as well as after effects of what she does. So basically her body is moving through time as well as physical space. She's almost kind of like an infinity stone out of flux, because you can actually see her reaching for her chamber's railing before she even does it. And it's like, that's interesting. So she goes in to lay down inside that chamber, and it's, I'm guessing, feeding her good vibes. To put it bluntly. And we then are introduced to Lawrence Fishburne, who's explaining the whole situation with Ava to his class. So it's like, okay, so now we know what is going on with that ghost person, which is creepy. And how he's like,
coincidental exposition is what I
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And then he's like, don't condescend, Hank. The only reason why you're on the run from the FBI is because you finally grew to a size that would fit your ego. That wasn't me in Germany. That was this idiot. And he talks about Project Goliath and where his record is 21 feet, Scott's is 65. If we're done comparing sizes, and I'm thinking to myself, ooh. So I love it. It's like, nobody's going to recognize us. Hank, this isn't a disguise. We look like ourselves at a baseball game.
Yeah, I like the little bit of detail, at least like for like writing wise. Like, is that the character of Bill Foster, was it? Yeah, he wouldn't know that wasn't Hank.
Yeah,
he doesn't know Scott at all. Also, it's like, yeah, he wouldn't know that it wasn't Hank. So,
he knew Hank the second he saw him. That's why he actually stopped the class.
No,
like,
I mean like in Germany. I mean in Germany when he said that.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, oh, it's like you did all this stuff in Germany. It's like, no, that was this city.
Yep. And I think somebody is just getting home finally. But anyway, we then realize that they need a refractor or something like that. And I think it's a refractor. Because the FBI shows up at the university looking for Hank and Hope. And they go straight to the Lawrence Fishburne. He's like, well, I'd love to help you. It's just, I'm the last person you'd come to see. And why is that? Because we hate each other. Because we hate each other's guts. Hey, Christopher, it's good to see you. He isn't the only Marvel film to have Lawrence Fishburne. He also dubbed Silver Surfer. Yep. Did you know that Quentin Tarantino planned a Luke Cage movie with Lawrence Fishburne? He scrapped it in favor of his magnum opus, Pulp. Ugh. Everybody loves Pulp Fiction.
Not me.
I'm thinking to myself, that movie was fucking
it.
weird. That movie is fucking weird.
I've never watched it, so no opinion.
Yeah.
The only sequence I like is the sequence with Bruce Willis. I don't like any of the other.
I only know that Samuel Jackson is like a weird hairstyle.
Well, I feel bad for Ving Rhames, man. But that's a different conversation for another time. So he's like, yeah, I got rid of refractors when I upgraded to suits. So if we had an old suit, you didn't destroy the suit. Oh my, well, no, it was your life's work, Hank. What happened to it? I mailed it to Louise. You sent my suit through the mail.
Yeah.
I love
the banter between these two in this movie. It's even better than the second movie.
The banter is really good. Yeah, and like Kitty just said, it's better in the second one because they now like have a little bit more.
I mean, the first one.
Or the first one. It has a little bit more like, I don't know, oomph to it. But yeah, their banter back and forth is just fun.
Yeah. And so then they have to go get the trophy, but the trophy's not where it was said to be. So now he's like, oh my God, Cassie.
Yeah, and then it cuts back all the way to like the first part of the movie. It's just like, and she's like, I want to bring it to show and tell.
Yeah, because she wanted to bring it to show and tell. And she did, even though he said no. And so we then get them in the school, and he's having fluctuation problems with his size. And he's just like a very small, he's fucking Hobbit sized in this. I call him Hobbit Lang.
And then he has to wear a hoodie and like disguise himself as a king.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my God. And I love that. It's like, if only Cap could see you now.
And then there was the teacher who was asking for his hall pass, and then he just ran away, and the teacher gave up.
Yeah, he's like, he's just quiet. If I'm still, you won't even notice me. Yeah, you. Yikes, I'm out. He just runs. And I love it. he's just trying to get to Cassie's thing when he's small still, and he's like, and freaking, that Hope is just gonna needle him. It's like, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah, she can grow big, but she's not helping him. She's just laughing and trying to get it.
And then he gets it and hands it to her, and they get out, and they're able to track the suit. So I also love that little banter when he's like, "Hey, sport, how was school?" It's like, oh my God, Hank, you are such an asshole. Would you like some peanut butter and apple juice? Do you got any? So
yeah, they're just kind of being a dick because of course it's like that's what they did, but they still
So then they get into they find a lab, it's in the woods. And basically it's Ghost's place of hiding. And I like that little banner between Scott and Hope, because it's like, if I would have asked you to come with me, would you have? The better question is, or here's the thing, if I did go with you, you never would have been caught. And the thing is, I'm pretty sure that's probably true, because she would have probably saved his ass afterward. So they end up getting in there with Ulysses S. Grant. It's like, would have been better if you just did Ulysses S. Ant,
It would have.
I mean, you didn't even need the Ant. Just would have been Ulysses S. Ant. There you go. But anyway, they get caught by Ghost after they see her, and she basically woke up the second that they grew to normal size. And I like the intro to her. It's like, they can't hear you. And it's like, oh, so I guess you don't need to sit. No, I'm Ava. Yeah. And you do actually feel sorry for this character. That's the one thing that I do like. However, she does have an evil streak to her. It's like, let's got a daughter. We'll start there. It's like, no.
Yeah.
But I really do like, or there's two sides to every story, and we learn this side of the story is Ava's father worked with Hank, Elias Starr, and well, because apparently according to Ava, a difference of opinion led to him being ousted and discredited. So then, hold on one second.
What's interesting about Ghost is, even though they race and gender swapped her, is her costume is actually very comic book accurate. Comparatively, it's very. I always thought that was interesting. So they want to go to the trouble of gender and race swapping her, but then they're going to give her the comic book costume.
Right. Sorry about that.
Like slightly different abilities as well. So I guess maybe they're trying to kind of be like, oh, this is like the daughter or something.
Yeah.
So
now the de-aging that they did for Lawrence Fishburne was also goddamn perfect. I mean, they know really well, or they use their budget very well for this movie.
Oh yeah, like Ant-Man, the Ant-Man movies have great de-aging. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
It doesn't look very creepy.
No, because I seen Lawrence Fishburne back in the 80s with Nightmare on Elm Street, I think it was 3, where he played an orderly at the nut hospital for the kids that they ship off. Any kid who used to see Freddy Krueger got sent to the psych ward, and he was one of the orderlies. And I'm thinking to myself, he looks just like he did back then, just with a little bit more weight. Holy shit. I mean, it was really that well done.
Yeah. And
he was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, they then learned that S.H.I.E.L.D. weaponized her, except that that wasn't S.H.I.E.L.D. that was weaponizing her. Let's be honest, folks, that was Hydra.
Of course,
and
of course.
They turned her into a weapon where she was killing people and whatnot. Goliath and Ant-Man were bosses in Avengers Alliance. Nice. I like how small scale the first two Ant-Man movies are. No pun intended. Yeah, right. And so then we see Hank fake a heart attack because they're planning on using Janet because they realize that there's a way that Janet can be brought back. We kind of glossed over that a little bit, folks. Mea culpa. But basically, Janet and Scott are linked psychically. Ooh.
Quantumly.
Yes, quantumly. Or we think you may have entangled with my wife. You know, Hank, I would never do that. Quantum entanglement.
I love that. I'm like, it's like, no,
quantum entanglement.
Quantum entanglement, not, yeah.
Not
well, that would be
physical
the first thing you think of.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what most people would first think of. It's like, I know you've entangled with my wife.
And he calls it well in this movie. He's like, you guys just throw quantum in front of everything.
Yep.
So we then see Hank. I like how Hank starts to because he's old, and he uses that to his advantage by faking a heart attack. And it's like, that's actually quite believable. He does look like he's turning red. He does look like he's about ready to kill over until they use the Altoids. And the Altoids had a growth disc and ants hiding in there. So the second he opens it, frickin' brings out a bunch of super jawed ants.
You could call it an ant bush.
Yeah, there you go.
You could.
Look at Riot down here, folks.
Riot is on fire tonight.
I know. You're a riot.
Yeah, exactly. So, oh Christ, hold on. Okay, good, because that asshole better not call me again. Anywho, where was I?
It was one fake heart attack.
Yeah. So they
fake
break
heart
out.
attack and the ambush.
Yeah, and they managed to get out of there. And, then we see, what's his name? Hank give his idea or his side of the story. Elias Stark went nuts. He tried stealing my ideas and shit because he also was kind of working on a quantum tunnel in that flashback. Wouldn't he have called Antoids instead of Altoids? True.
No, because Hank Pym is not a pun guy.
Yeah, he's not a punner.
No, that would be good though.
Yeah, I would.
I'm gonna be real. Even with like Hank's side of the story, I'm just like, this was all your dad's fault, right?
Pretty much, yeah, because
he was the idiot.
He made those choices.
Yeah, he made those choices. He was the idiot. He did it like unstable frequency or whatever, and then he basically almost blew the building up. And then he killed himself, his wife, and then he gave his daughter like this freaking terrible illness,
affliction.
Basically.
Yeah.
So,
and the way that she describes it is her cells are literally in a constant state of being ripped apart and stitched back together. And I'm
honestly,
thinking to myself,
I think at least like real life comparison, I'm thinking. Like her like entire cellular structure is just basically having a seizure constantly. Or at least that's how I see it.
And the way that she's, folks, a friend of mine gave me a brownie or some brownies the other day, and I only had one, and he didn't tell me that they were cannabis brownies. That's why I didn't do videos yesterday.
He didn't tell you? That's not good.
Yeah, I told him flat out, you ever do that again, I'll turn your ass in. But basically I had basically it was a repeat of that Sunday that I had to push back the Infinity War stream. And it's like, when you see Ghost, there's a point here, folks. When you see Ava, when she's struggling to get places where she's wickedly off balance When you have to put it bluntly, an edible high, that's straight to your bloodstream. That is hallucinogenic, as well as throwing you completely. And even today, when I woke up, I was dizzy as hell because it takes a while to get that shit, or it got out of my system around 4 p.m. today. And I'm thinking to myself, holy crap, finally it's gone. But yeah, the way that she plays it she plays it very well, but when she's in the suit, she can use it to her advantage and whatnot, and it helps with the pain. But we also learned that the suit and the chamber aren't cutting it anymore. So when she's ready to go after Lang's daughter, I like how Lawrence Fishburne's like, hey, I've tolerated you doing a lot of stuff, and I ain't going to be a party to anything like that.
Yeah, he hates Hank. He hates Hank, but I do think he does love Hope at the very least. So
yeah, he loves Ava, not Hope, but Ava. But he also does have a moral center.
Yeah, well, I mean, like it's like, yeah, it's like I hate his guts. Look, I hate his guts, but that does not give you the right to fist his daughter with your ghost phase powers.
No, he was going to go after Lang's daughter.
What?
Yeah, that cat protested as soon as she heard Lang's daughter. But anyway,
she's like, "You better not touch Lang's daughter."
Oh, that was Lang's daughter?
No, yeah, she was planning on going after Cassie.
Well,
not
I
Hope.
Which is
yeah, which is even worse.
Yeah,
I mean,
which is why she has those like evil tendencies, like you were saying earlier.
Well, she was weaponized. Remember? She did assassinations and all sorts of shit.
Well, that's way worse than going after Hope. She's just she's gonna like kill a little girl who's got nothing to do with anything.
Well, she wasn't gonna go kill her. She was gonna use her as leverage.
Well, I guess hold her hostage at the very least and kidnap her.
But yeah. But yeah, so they end up doing another quantum entanglement and the possession of Scott Lang. Folks, effeminate Paul Rudd. Gotta say, he plays a woman in a man's body very well. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? This is creepy in all the wrong ways. Get me off of this roller coaster. But he did it very well. Look at us squabbling again. And I mean, he played it like Michelle Pfeiffer would have played it, And I'm if I could ask Paul Rudd, did you actually get have Michelle Pfeiffer act it out and then you act it out, or did you or have her how would you play this, or how would you play this moment? Because that I'm actually kind of wondering, What did you all think of that moment, or the possession of Scott Lang?
I thought it was cool. I think it kind of showed off his acting chops a bit, because I was like, wow, I on rewatching it, I rewound it because it was entertaining. It reminded me of I don't know if you guys have ever seen Person of Interest, but there's a point where all of the characters have to play each other. And this was just a fun moment of and I wondered the same thing, how did you guys do this? Did you spend a day getting each other's mannerism? But it was just kind of fun.
I also like that, or speaking of person of interest, small segue here, folks, or small tangent here, folks.
Yeah.
The episode where they're all doing the or where the machine is running simulations to get them out of a certain situation in the later seasons, where frickin' Fusco just kisses, what's her name? Why'd you do that? Who cares? This is a simulation. It's okay, so the machine's got a sense of humor. Right. But yeah, I do like that scene. So, Riot, what was your thoughts on it?
I'm sorry, I had to step away for a second.
That's okay. Possession of Scott Lang. Michelle Pfeiffer is Scott Lang. So
yeah, I thought that was very amusing because Scott was kind of like talking in like a it's like it just like a almost like a slightly more sing-songy voice, like a guy pretending to be a wolf.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's like we got to do the quantum particles, honey. and then I actually yeah, I was like slightly confused for a second, like, oh, it's Janet. Like, I'm like, wow, that's actually explains a whole lot due to his behavior. And then I also laughed like at their reaction, like after like the possession ends, and like he's like, wait, it's just like, sorry, I got nothing, guys. I don't know where I don't know where Janet is. And it's just like, wait, how do we get up here? And then he looks down. It's like he's holding eggs very lovingly. And then it's just like, huh? It's like, he just froze his eyebrows. Like, that's great, like, visual cue acting.
Yeah. Jacob?
Same. I thought it was funny. Paul Rudd is really good at those kinds of roles. You might, I was thinking that when he played Bobby Newport in Parks and Recreation, I actually heard someone said he was just playing like a rich version of himself, which I'm like, he is rich. He's like one of the most highest paid comedians in Hollywood. But anyway, I thought it was really funny. It was he does have the really good ability to play off that. It cracked me up a lot.
Mm-hmm. And so after that, he's also Louise needs his help with the trying to land the Carpathian deal for the security business. And so he tells him where they are in the woods. And that's when freaking Walter Goggins shows up with Uzman and the truth serum. And it's like, it isn't truth serum. That stuff that's only seen on TV. Well, then what does it do? It makes you highly suggestible, more willing to cooperate.
The truth serum goes on for way too long. I'm like, oh my god.
It's like, it's fucking truth serum. Hey, Hardwick Bento.
So what you're saying is it's truth serum. Yeah, like it's like the same thing.
Yeah. Ghost in this movie has almost the same story as Sandman and Spider-Man 3, sympathetic motivations, but repeatedly puts innocent people in danger. Is forgiven. Yeah.
I'm going to dispute that a little bit.
Right.
Ghost, just because in Ghost scenario, she wasn't the perpetrator of her own mutation. Sandman was. He's a bad guy. He's a criminal. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, boo-hoo. He can't get money for his daughter, whatever. Sorry, you shouldn't become a criminal when that happens. But he actually caused himself to fall in the sand pit. In the case of Ghost, she was a victim of her dad's insanity, and along with her mother. So that's why I'll dispute that a little bit. Other than the sympathy, because to me, Sandman's not sympathetic. When you cross the line of being a murderer, you're not sympathetic to me anymore, and that's just my opinion.
Well, let's say the Thomas Hayden Church Sandman character is more sympathetic. I mean, it was.
I don't agree with that.
They put it in. They have it very clearly in the movie that it was a complete accident that he killed them.
Yeah, I don't care. He still shot him. He pulled a gun. It was loaded. He cocked it. He got hit, and it went off. I don't care if it was an accident or not. That to me is still crossing the line, because he could have not had a gun. It couldn't have been loaded. He could have just been a bluff. But he loaded the gun and he armed it. He was there with the intention of shooting someone. So that's just my opinion. But that's why I don't feel sympathy for him. It's like, sorry. Like,
all right. So
sorry for on the soapbox, but that's just my honest opinion.
All right. So next scene, let me get back the thingies here. Shut up, phone. You're weird. There we go. Okay, so where are we now? Taking the lab back. Yes, truth serum. And then it's not truth serum, except that it is truth serum. And we also learned that Ghost has only a couple of weeks left. And I love the tale of Louise, where it's like, where is Scott Lang? Oh, okay. Well, Scott Lang's in a bad place, you know? And he starts going, his hair in prison, man. I gotta say, his hair in prison. Huh. Hey, Slim, good to see you. Shout out to you. And the long tale of Luis and how his Abuelita has Morrissey in the jukebox, and how that delicious pastry is, or how he's running, or the business is running out of money. He's like, because we're almost broke. Oh! And it's like, well, we're almost broke. Yeah, I didn't want to tell you guys because I was afraid to tell you guys. And he's just going nuts. Like, they're like, yeah, but where is Scott Lang? He's like, trying to tell you. He's like, hey, you put a dime in him, you got to let the whole song play. And he's like human jukebox. And so he's like, I'm telling you, emotionally, he's in a very bad place right now. Well, I want to know where he is, literally. Oh, in the woods. It's like, oh, shit. Because that's when fucking Ghost shows up. In the woods? What do you mean in the woods? And freaking Bobby, or the freaking Russian, Bobby, he's just like going freaking nuts. He's like rocking back and forth, like, it's like, Bobby, I gotta come at night. Sleeping kids all tucked in and tight. It's like, oh my God. So she ends up slicing Goggins' tires, and he calls in an FBI flunky to turn in Lang, or the Pims and Lang. And so then I love it because he freaking calls up Scotty to tell him that they're coming and whatnot. And he's like, they give me this truth serum, and it makes me tell the truth and all sorts of stuff. Like how I hate when you load the dishwasher because you always put those plates at the top. They don't go there. It's just fun. Louise on truth serum, dude. It is freaking hilarious. It's a trip. Because
he already shares a lot when he's not on truth serum. And so like you add it to it, it's like, you know, giving like an ADHD person, like, I don't know, a bunch of cocaine or something. Yeah, speed, or like he's just like, let me just tell you everything more. You know, it's so it's like more entertaining. I love his character. He's just fun.
Yeah. And so Scotty has to get back to the house, and the FBI's like, oh, we're going to freaking nail him now. They kick in his door. His daughter is there. She sees the aunt there, and she's like, oh, because the aunt is in the freaking bathroom taking a bath, and the aunt's like, So she stops the agent, and he's like, but he barfed. It's like, I'm an FBI agent. I've seen a lot more worse things than barf. Like a lot? Yeah. Screw it. I don't care. He goes to see him, and well, somehow he got there in time. But it came at a cost because now Hope and Hank are caught. And, well, the lab got taken by Ghost. So, yeah. And they only got 2 hours to save Janet. Let's see here. So then they have to come up with a plan to track the lab. And he's like, do we have any more plans to track the lab? Yeah, we got ants that make arrows. And I'm thinking to myself, that has got to be the most comic book thing I have ever seen. I mean, ants that literally make arrows and fly around as arrows. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, isn't that some shit? So what did you guys all think of that? We'll start with the ladies first.
I thought it was fun. It was something new, like, oh, hey, because when I first saw it, I was like, oh, well, there are different types of ants. There are carpenter ants, there are ants that fly, you know. It was just kind of like, oh, here's a different ant. But yeah, like you said, it was very comic booky. And you know, it was just a little bit different. You're like, I didn't know they could do that. You know.
Real Lady Thor. Well, I guess she had to go somewhere. Jacob.
Would like. I love this whole sequence, like from the truth serum to the ants with arrows. One thing I can say about Peyton Reed, and I'll be honest, I didn't like this movie, which I know we'll do our overview later, but I didn't like this one as much as the first Ant-Man. That being said, one of the things I like about how Peyton Reed did it is this was when quirkiness hadn't taken over as the primary mode of humor. So, you know, you have, like you were saying, the comic book humor, you've got kind of the slapstick humor, you've got just the funny dialogue humor, like, and that this whole sequence, he packs all of that in, but I never felt overwhelmed. I had a blast this whole sequence of events. So I will say about that, Peyton Reed, when this is, you know, before, you know, the terrible Marvel writers got to him. So it was, I love these parts in this movie because there's so much product placement. It is that whole sequence was just product placement fun. And you could just tell Marvel was like, okay, we want you to put this in here. We want you to put, and he was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to put all the products in this sequence. You know, things are growing, shrinking during the car chase scene and all that. I just thought that was so much fun. So credit to Reed for you know, not just for mixing it up very well with the humor. To me, that's what kept this whole, because it could have been very boring. You're like, okay, yeah, we get it, truth serum, haha. But because he kept it so light and fresh, it was, and mixed in other types of comedy with it, like slapstick and whatnot, it really made it a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And Riot, are you back yet? Okay, she's not.
Hello, I'm back.
Okay. So, ants and arrows. What do you think? How they were leading them to the lab by flying around looking like looking like an arrow.
Oh yeah, that was very clever. I thought you were talking about literal arrows for a second. I'm like, ants and arrows, what? Are there arrows in this movie? No. But yeah, I thought that was extremely clever. Like, honestly, the ingenuity in the Ant-Man movies is on point. This is one of those scenes. I'm just like, yep, they just point to where you go. You don't have to look at the freaking monitor. You could just look up in the sky.
And so then we get Louise showing up. What? And I'm thinking to myself, he brought it back. Good on you, mate. And he's like, do you guys not remember that beloved commercial? Fucking everybody's like, oh, I actually do remember that commercial, folks. What's up? What's up? Konnichiwa, konnichiwa! And they're saying it all in different fucking languages. And this was all because of Scary Movie, the movie Scary Movie. It's like, oh my god.
With the tongue all out and everything, and they pick up the extra line. Yeah.
And the freaking ghost face is just high as a fucking kite. So then Hank will have to go in to do the dive because Hope and Scott will need to keep Ghost busy. And Louise is still under truth serum, and he also wants a suit. He's like, I want a suit too. I mean, it doesn't have to do anything, but I still want a suit. It's like, oh my god, dude. So then we get the fight between Ghost and Scott, and I love how she's just she's like, she doesn't care anymore. She's just walking through walls and everything just to get at Scott. She doesn't, or it just doesn't. That's somebody who's been through that shit for years, you know? She played it very well. And not to mention it was because she was in a completely different set when this is filming. She's in a green screen set where she's then placed into the set that Paul Rudd is in to make it look like she's physically in the set going through things. So we then see that Hank gets in there and convinces Lawrence Fishburne to back off. And they get Hank makes his dive. Let's see here. And also they have the Walter Goggins chase after the misdirection of getting the lab back. Now, the shrinking and growing of things, folks, when she uses that Pez dispenser, he's like, "Do you like a Pez?" And so she sees it and she uses it. He's like, "Oh, you got Pez!" I mean, Hello Kitty. Quite literally, Hello Kitty. I mean, she also shrinks the bike or one of the bikes, and it's like, damn, dude, that's just gotta be rough.
This is the moment where your life flashes before your eyes in the face of Hello Kitty.
Well, yeah, that too. But when the dude on the bike that shrunk, going like 50, 60 miles an hour, and then suddenly your body's momentum is still continuing the journey. However, you don't got any protection. So it's like, oh, shit. Hello, pavement. You're going to have some skin. Let's just say, folks, there ain't no amount of Pez that's going to make that any better. So we then see more size fluctuation due to the regulator being trippy still. And Wasp is really shining in this scene. And we also have Hank into the void with the tardigrades. And then he ends up crashing down there with 5 minutes left to find Janet. And let's see here. I mean, that whole chase sequence was very well done. I gotta say, that whole chase sequence is very well done. And Walt Goggins just wants a lab because of all the juicy tech inside. And it's like, dude, you don't really understand what the hell's at stake here, do you? No, corporate greed, folks, corporate greed. So to the next main part is inside the quantum realm, where Hank is starting to go nuts because he doesn't have the same protection as he once did with the helmet. So it's like, when he starts going nuts, his mind literally retreats to something that is more able to comprehend, which is he's back at his house. And everybody's talking to him like, "What's up, buddy? You all right?"
You're kind of lost.
Yeah. And then we see this weird, creepy figure go up to him and do that little psychic hold of your thingy head. And yeah, it even glows a little bit.
E.T.
Yeah. So you got the glowy fingers, and she ends up bringing him back. She's still wearing a little bit of the Wasp mask, and it's Michelle Pfeiffer, aged 30 years. And I gotta say, Michelle Pfeiffer still looks good after all these many years. I'd hit that. But, no. What'd you all think of the quantum realm? Also, did you notice that little city off in the quantum realm in this movie? How many people noticed that? We'll start with Nerd.
I did notice it, and I was like, ooh, I want to, spend more time in the quantum realm. I will say, though, the CGI was done well. However, there were moments in the quantum realm where I was like, oh, this is it's too much. Kind of like with Guardians 2, where I was like, man, you can just totally tell they're on a soundstage. The lighting isn't quite right in certain areas, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm getting bored of the over CGI stuff, but I will say the sequence was cool, and I would have liked to. They talk about the quantum realm all the time, but then they're like, oh, it's too dangerous to spend too much time in there, so it's not like we get to spend a lot of time in there and really explore and stuff. But I will say it was a fun, it was a cool sequence.
All right, Hardwick, we will address this after I let Riot and Jake give their thoughts on the quantum realm. Right, thoughts on the quantum realm.
Definitely a lot. I don't think it was to the point of like the quantum mania of what I saw of it, but there's definitely quite a bit of visual finesse. Like it's like almost like too weird, but at least I was able to focus in on what was going on. I did not notice the city though. So.
Yeah. It's a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing. Jacob.
I really thought it was good. Getting to see, because you get teased by the content of teased about the quantum realm in the first one, so getting to see it fully and even seeing how Pym has to process it was really cool. One note, we mentioned the Hello Kitty Pez. I don't know if y'all remember, but this movie came out in 2018. In 2014, Sanrio, which is the company that owns the rights to Hello Kitty, they announced that Hello Kitty is not in fact a cat. And it caused an uproar, not just in Japan, but also in the United States. Even Jon Stewart talked about it on The Daily Show. And so I kind of...
Seriously?
Oh yeah, it was a big consternation. They said,
but it's called Hello Kitty. Why is she not a cat?
They said she's not a cat; she's a cartoon character, and I'm like, that's a distinction without a difference. I don't know what you're trying to say there.
Then a cartoon
cat.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes,
that's so
you're preaching
strange.
to the choir.
The ears and the whiskers and the nose. It's like wow.
So sometimes I wonder if that was that. I know Pez was and Sanrio was probably a sponsor, but I have to wonder if in the back of my head, if Peyton Reed or whoever wrote that scene had that in the back of their head. Hello Kitty goes from this very cutesy sort of, kawaii thing, and then all of a sudden it becomes like this monstrous thing used to take out the bad guys. I have to admit, I always wondered if that was like a kind of a shot at Sanrio for causing all the fandom to go crazy all those years ago. But I thought that was kind of funny that, I don't know why I thought that in theaters, probably because my wife is a huge Hello Kitty fan, but I couldn't help but think that. I was like, I wonder if that was like a little slap at Sanrio for saying Hello Kitty's not a cat, but I don't know. It was funny to think about at the time.
All right. And to address Hardwick, his question here about some reviews have expressed that Ant-Man is diminished in this movie in order to make Wasp look better than him and given her center stage. No, I do not agree with that. I do agree that that she was already more skilled than him in the first movie. She's the one that taught him how to fight. So, by own logic, she knows how to wield the suit, and she's learned in the undisputed amount of time, or in the unspecified time between the movies, how to train growing and shrinking. So it makes sense that she would have a lot more skill. So her having a little bit more in this movie, it is called The Ant-Man and the Wasp. We know Scott's limits and his stuff. So we are now introducing the Wasp's ability to show off or we are giving her the ability to show it off. Does that diminish Scott in this movie? No, he's still very much the hero in this movie. But she also needs to have a little bit of time to shine too as well. So I do not think, or a lot of the people who tried making that argument, oh, it's woke because they put her as first and foremost. It's like, no, honestly, they didn't. The movie was still very much centered around Scott Lang. And yes, she has her stuff in there, but guess what? I don't really agree that it was or that it diminished. And I am looking at it from an objective point of view. As much as I think this movie was a little bit of a step down from the first one, very much the amount of Wasp time in this movie is very balanced. And her skill set is an exponential growth from the first one to the second one. It's a logical growth. How would you would you Michelle Pfeiffer or Famke Janssen? I'll leave that up to your imagination, Vanya. Who do you think I would choose? But I'm not going to highlight that because it is kind of inappropriate. But yeah, to answer Hardwick, I really don't think that there was any wokeness in mind for that. And I'll leave it to the panel. What are your thoughts on Hardwick's question here? We'll start with Nerd.
I've heard that a lot, and I'm kind of on the fence about that. You do bring up a good point that she was the one that taught him to fight, so I'm willing to give that to as far as like a negative against that argument. The only thing that I saw in this film that was more like quote unquote feministic to lift up the women was the gender swap, and then we do definitely have like more female characters in this, but yeah, the marketing might have been a little bit more for Evangeline Lilly's character, but overall, I don't think she has more screen time than him. I don't think that she's necessarily like overshadows him per se, just for some of the points that you brought up, Orange. But I don't know. Like I can see arguments for both sides, but overall, my general feeling would be no, as far as him being put in the background. But that's just me. I do enjoy the first Ant-Man more than this one, but it wasn't for that reason.
All right, Riot.
I think that maybe the market. I did see the trailer for this, but maybe the marketing gave that impression. And even though this movie does like focus a bit more on hope than in comparison to the first movie, I don't think Ant-Man's role was diminished to make was to make her look better. After all, she does get saved by him a couple of times in the movie as well. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, and while yes, Hope and Pym are kind of being dicks to him, it is part of the story of the movie as well, doing that, and he tries to help them as best he can. So yeah, and it's just like he's not like the blumbering idiot sidekick or whatever. Basically, like there's some like goofy stuff, right? But it's just all part of the comedy, same as like the first movie.
Yeah. All right, Jake, your thoughts on Vanya's take here, or not Vanya, but Hardwick's take here?
Well, looking at the question, honestly, I don't think so. I think that I agree with my fellow panelists, and I agree with you, Orange. To me, it was, which we'll touch on this later, I imagine. But originally, Hope was supposed to be in Avengers Endgame, but so I think making it Ant-Man and the Wasp, and then giving her more kind of cool moments, was because they wanted the audience to know about her more. Because let's be real, Ant-Man and the Wasp, whether you're talking about Hank and Janet or Scott and Hope, they're not very well known, even compared to say someone like Iron Man. So I think with this film, they were trying to uplift Wasp, but in my opinion, they don't do it at the expense of of Scott. I think that it was on point. I think they both got an equal amount of time. And again, it could be my bias because I like Evangeline Lilly as an actress, but I didn't think so. It was kind of like the people who would tell me that Black Panther was woke. The villain was woke, but that doesn't make the
villain was racist.
You're right, exactly. The bad guy was. The bad guy was.
Yeah, and Shuri was woke, but
right, but not the.
The whole message of the movie was the opposite. So,
yeah. Right. Exactly. So these newer films, I think people are just starting to get aggravated because of Star Wars and Disney was starting to make bad decisions in regards to the MCU. But I will say I don't feel that way with Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think that it was very evened out.
All right. And I got a €2 super chat. I think that's euros. From Vanya. Thank you very much. Can this buy you like a Snickers bar? That could buy me about half of one, but thank you so much thank you so much for that.
With
folks.
I think you could get yourself a Snickers bar, a small one, maybe not a king size.
Probably like a small one. Yeah.
Go to 99-cent store or Dollar Tree.
Right. You can get like the $1.50 one or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think €2 is like $2.15 or something in American monies.
I have no idea now with inflation and whatnot. But getting back on with it, so Janet has enhancements, or is enhanced because of her time in the quantum realm, and
she's got the ET fingers.
Yeah, she's got the ET fingers, and they're about to head back. And also, Walt Goggins is on a ship or on a ferry. And I love how Scott's trying to call a bunch of ants to him, but he's by the water. And what's by the water? And very sharp-eyed seagulls. And, well, if Stieg was here, he would not like this scene because, well, seagulls are the enemy of Norse.
Mine.
Yep. I mean, they just kept on coming in. Snip. It's like, fuck. And he manages to get Antonio Banderas. And, well, he then gets
and then he immediately dies.
Yeah.
Like, no, Antonio.
It's like, no, Antonio. But I'm thinking to myself, Anthony from the first movie had a lot more weight when you lose Anthony, you know? Because he had Anthony for a lot longer. So I'm thinking to myself, yeah. When Anthony died, I almost shed it. I kind of did shed a tear. But in this one, I like how he becomes whale-sized to go after the lab, or to go after Walt Goggins. He's like, let it go. Now you're just embarrassing yourself. Let it go. And then he just pokes him. But also, something that they actually do a very good job here is when he finally gets to the shore, he's wickedly tired out. He's like, the air is chunky. And I'm thinking to myself, well, the air quality in Los Angeles is kind of shitty, so it does kind of make sense that he would, or because he's so big, he would tire out quicker because the air, he needs a lot more air to breathe when you're that size. Your lung capacity is a lot, larger.
Yeah, bigger.
So when he passes out, I'm thinking to myself, damn, dude, somebody better get to him quick.
Yeah, basically he's just suffocating right now.
And also,
I said something funny in the chat, just for you
what
guys.
Did you say?
But...
I can't see it. Has it come up yet?
Did you send it to our Twitter chat? Our Twitter group, X group, whatever it's called?
Did you send it to? Yeah, right. Did you send it there? Well, I can always check.
Oh yeah, I see it in our X group.
I keep in mind I made this in like 10 minutes.
Ready here. It is like super. My computer is like super slow too.
Oh.
Come on. Alright, so there's a nice 28-second thingy here. Well, I'm going to check that out. You guys keep talking. What'd you think of Bill Lang?
No. Well, yeah, it's just like he was suffocating, so that was kind of terrifying for him. Like it's just like, even though it kind of looked a bit goofy because he's just falling in the water, right? He's super big. Like, yeah, that's pretty freaking terrifying. Imagine just like suffocating to death because you're too huge, basically. And I'm glad that Hope saved him. So
it's kind of sad if you think about it too, because he's like, I'm huge and I can't breathe.
I appreciated the scientific detail there because they tend to use the science that's convenient, and not just Marvel films. This is just a fault of Hollywood in general, but I really appreciated he got that big, and of course, so yeah, his lung capacity would be strained, obviously. So it was really, I thought that I appreciated that attention to detail, but yeah, it was very terrifying. I wouldn't want to fall into the ocean like that for sure.
Oh my gosh, you put the Jaws theme over it. Okay, that's pretty good, Riot. I'll give you that one there. Well done, girl. Freaking well done.
thank you.
Where is it? There it is. Let's see here.
This is a new feeling. Pride in someone else.
Played long enough.
And now I'm having intestinal issues again, so I'll be right back.
Okay.
Drink lots of vinegar.
Okay, how far did that clip get before I stopped it?
It just got to just before he opens his mouth. So it's just him floating on the water.
Okay, well, let's try again.
This is a new feeling. Pride in someone else.
I like that, Riot.
Someone
That's
else.
a good one, Riot.
I have the full, unfortunately, it's overshadowed by all this in yielding range, but I didn't want to play that part because I'm not pissed off at Riot, So we get to the next shot, and Lang is saved. And let's see here. They use the truth serum against Walt Goggins, and the wombats end up saving the lab. But Ava arrives and she starts siphoning Janet. So it's like, oh shit. But so they end up getting into the lab to stop her just as the arrival of Janet and Hank happened. Gotta say, that was actually pretty damn good. But the scene where she goes up to Ghost, I'm thinking to myself, Messianic figure going up to the possessed. Yikes. And so she helps her by giving some of her juju to Ghost, and that manages to stabilize her. So it's like, will this cure her or no? It does make one wonder. It really does make one wonder. And I don't know why I'm doing Sean Connery. €2, yes. Okay, good. Hold on here. We got another one from Hardwick Bentho. Did you see the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray in which Janet tells Hank that there are millions of civilizations in the quantum realm, then uses a universal translator to talk to an amoeba?
Oh, I did
No,
not see
I
that.
did not see that.
I have not seen that
I'm glad that they talked
An amoeba.
about that, the civilizations. Go back to, like you said earlier, asking if we saw that city in the background. So
Alrighty. Now I'll get back over here. Am I coming in clearly? All right, good.
You did freeze for a second, but you sound good now.
Yeah, that's because I switched over to a different window. Unfortunately, I can't fix that unless I have a PC to do that with, So we then do the giant we finally get everybody's all nice reunions. And then, well, the FBI is now very much aware that Ant-Man was at the coast. And they're looking for him. Well, I love the giant misdirection because you see the Ant-Man like right up against the building like, okay, they're not going to see me. I'll just be really freaking still. And then he deflates like a freaking ball. And it's like, oh, shit, magic, misdirection. So he realizes he has to run back to, like, get the Langs. And they kick down the door again. It's like, dude, at this point, you better fucking pay for the door. Because I know I would sue you. You don't get to kick down the door all the time. And so he's at his place. He's playing the drums and whatnot. He's like, oh, 2 years or 3 years up already? Or 2 years up already? And so I was like, you got away with it this time, Scott, but next time I'll be there. You'll be where? And he just makes it completely awkward. It's like, dude, is this guy gay? Because he's talking about wanting to do a dinner with fucking Scott. It's like, is the character gay? It kind of almost makes you wonder. But his house arrest is lifted, and the Wombat security firm is getting in business with that Carpathian guy because they saw him, or they saw them at the. They saw him at the. Yeah, right. I see in the chat. Scott acting like he didn't just run 5 blocks in boxers. Yeah, and his bare feet are not even marred. Can you imagine that? I mean, dude, you just ran bare feet in boxers for 5 blocks or more. How the hell did he get there in time, you know?
Like, yeah, no.
All right, that was very robotic. What'd you say in there? Or what'd you say, Kate?
Oh, is it better?
Yeah, now it is.
Okay, I was just saying, yeah, like if I walk to my mailbox with bare feet, I'm like, ow, ow, little rocks, ow.
Right. So we then see the drive-in theater, the mini drive-in theater. So now they shrunk Cassie. A kid is now shrunk in these cars. They're watching a drive-in theater with a laptop of some sort of giant Bugs movie and a freaking moth. Go ahead.
I thought that was so fun. I was like, man, if I had the ability to shrink, I would watch every movie in IMAX off of like a tiny laptop. That'd be. I was like, that is so creative.
Right?
Like,
and so then we get to the end, and we then get the post-credit scene, or mid-credit and then post-credit. Mid-credit is Janet, Hope, and Hank are sending Scott to the quantum realm to get some healing particles for Ghost, and they're about to bring him back, and the communication line goes dead. And I get it, right? No need to highlight that because, well, that's your issue currently.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we hope you feel better. Let's just say that. Now, I do like it because they actually show what happened to them. They got dusted. You see the dust particles dropping. And also there was a line from Janet, and don't get sucked into a time vortex. We won't be able to save you, which sets up Endgame. And so he's now stuck in the quantum realm. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, shit. So then we get to the post-credit scene where you see half of the TV, half of a lamp, half of a door, all clever cuts because this is basically what happened after Thanos snapped. half of everything is gone. But you don't, but these are just clever camera angles and whatnot. And I gotta say that was actually done pretty well. And the ant didn't get dusted because he's playing the drums for Scott. There's also another deleted scene on the Blu-ray in which Walton Goggins wants to buy the first edition copy to L. Ron Hubbard's Dianetics. Okay. I'm gonna leave it to Jake because he reacted to that. What is that?
Oh, I haven't seen the commercial. Or the scene. I just think that sounds hilarious, and it would make perfect sense that Goggins' character was a Scientologist. So that's why I reacted that way. That's pretty
okay.
funny.
So what's Dianetics?
Dianetics was the progenitor to Scientology. So L. Ron Hubbard wrote Dianetics. He had written a bunch of sci-fi where he came up with all these psychological things within the fiction, and then Dianetics is supposed to be the non-fiction of his opinion of psychiatry. And he got laughed out of a APA meeting, I think, which being American Psychiatrist Association. And so that's when he created Scientology. So Dianetics was the first dip in the pool when it came to Scientology.
All right. Okay. So the two credit scenes, folks, what did we all think of them? I thought they were very well done to set up what's going to happen for Endgame. We'll start with Riot.
Yeah, it's like everything was going well and then they got dusted. So yeah, and basically like in the theater, you don't really like kind of like realize for a second like what's happening. It's like and then like and then yeah, it's just kind of like almost like the end of like a mystery murder movie or something, and then it just cuts to the ant playing on the drums. It's just like and then it's just like half of everything, stuff like that. So it's like and then we find out that actually I have a confession. Yeah, I actually watched this movie after Endgame, so I didn't know why he was stuck there. So
that would confuse people.
So I guess like it also served as a way of like, oh, that's how he was stuck there. Well, that's scary. That's really, really scary.
All right. Kate, what did you think of the credit scenes and the ending?
Yeah, the ending I remember being like, oh shit, how's he gonna get out of there? And then I was like, okay, well, in 2 movies we're gonna get Endgame, so this is just setting up. I was like, somehow they're gonna use the quantum realm to help them defeat Thanos. I was trying to like use the clues that they gave us to figure it out. But yeah, it was very like, oh, well, nobody knows that he's in there. Everybody's been snapped. And we know what happens to people who get trapped there. So it was kind of like a, oh no, our hero kind of moment. And it did a really good job of kind of like setting up, from having seen Endgame now, it did a really good job of setting up like, okay, here's the plot of how we're going to do things.
All right. And Jake, what did you think?
Post-credit scene terrified me in the theaters. I'm not gonna lie. I had already seen Infinity War, obviously, and I did watch this one in the correct order. So, but I actually, I actually had read that apparently the Russo brothers didn't want Janet to be dusted away. They actually wanted her for Endgame because they wanted to have a scene with the comic book original Avengers, which would be Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, Wasp, and Hulk. And some people throw in Captain America depending on who the writer is. And canonically, it's those 5. But I guess they kind of put their foot down on it for some reason. What a weird thing to put your foot down on. But
I guess so that Scott wouldn't be brought back till Endgame.
Well, they apparently the scene was supposed to end where when he says, guys, Janet's voice was going to come over the comm link and say, Scott, we have a problem. And then it was going to go to the rest of the credits. But yeah, that and so they were going to actually be a bigger part. Like it wasn't going to be him getting sucked back into the world and all that. I don't know if that's true, but like remember when there were these Marvel leakers leaking all this stuff about the MCU on 4chan and Reddit? That was one of the things that they had said was that the Russo brothers were really pushing for Janet to not get dusted away because they wanted her instead of Brie Larson, which I know we'll talk about why. But they wanted her to be a bigger part in it as opposed to Captain Marvel. So like I said, I don't know if that's true, but that was just part of one of those info dumps that came out. But that would have been interesting. Somewhere out there in the multiverse, no pun intended, there's a version of Ant-Man and the Wasp where Wasp doesn't get dusted and she's a main character in game. That would be hilarious.
All right. So this is the thumbnail for next week, folks, because we are covering it, Captain Marvel.
Very good thumbnail. So,
yeah,
like it.
I wanted to make it a little bit ridiculous, but also have her thingy in there too. So, but yeah, and we will be discussing both merit and flaws. So, because as I said in a short that I did not too long ago, the trick to being a good reviewer, you got to see both the good and the bad. I mean, a lot of people blindly hate on Captain Marvel. And yes, the movie does deserve a lot of critiques because, well, let's just say it's not that good. However, there are some parts in it.
The character arc is a straight line.
Yeah. There are some, we'll get into it when we get there, but there are some parts that are okay. So that is going to be our review. How would you guys score Ant-Man and the Wasp? We'll start with Riot.
Ant-Man and the Wasp. I honestly like the best part of it was the banter, and I know I missed this part, but oh gosh, what's that guy's name? I suck at names. Let me.
Which one? Walt Goggins?
No, the security guy. He's
Louise?
now a boss. Yeah, Louise. Yeah, Michael Pena. Okay, Michael Pena. Yeah, Michael Pena just like ad-libbing like previous scenes of the movies. Like I was laughing my butt off. It's just like it. And then they got a little freaky, right? It just like keeps going back and forth. And I'm just like, oh my god, that's great. So yeah, this was actually probably the first time I watched it all the way through. So I kind of watched like bits and pieces beforehand. Like I watched the beginning movie, then like the middle of it, and then the end of it, like not all in one sitting. So I would give this movie probably a 7 out of 10. There is like a consistency issue where I notice like it's like, oh, I only have a couple weeks left, and then it's like, oh, I only have a couple days left. I'm like, It's like, excuse me, it's not been that long. And then like just like us being a kind of like weakly motivated, I'm gonna be real. I'm not saying, well, at least in terms of like her backstory, but
yeah.
But other than that, like, yeah, the effects were cool. I liked her phase shifting stuff like in there. That's pretty cool. And it's slightly disappointing not having the actual ghost in there, but the gender swap did not bother me that much. Just because like they kind of just made it its own character, even though they used the name. So yeah, and then I just like more cute Scott and Cassie stuff. Like I love that. And then Quantum Mania makes me want to throw my phone out the window. With that relationship gone horribly wrong, but yeah. And so like it's like they kind of like tie up a lot of the loose ends from the first movie. It felt really like a really good sequel, like tried and true sequel. Like I kind of compare it to like maybe like Thor: The Dark World or Iron Man 2, where it's kind of like feels like kind of slightly disconnected from the first movie, especially Thor: The Dark World a bit, at least for me. but with only like a few things going in. So it's like I really like this movie. I'm gonna give it probably 7.5 out of 10.
All right. Jake, and don't worry, Hardwick, we will get to your question. What do you think of it?
I give it a solid 7. It was entertainment. Didn't like it as much as the first one, but I really think the first one still had Edgar Wright's influence on it, even though they parted ways. I think during pre-production, right? But it still kind of had his influence. They were still using his script, and Edgar Wright is one of my favorite directors, so I think that's another reason why I like the first one so well. But I still enjoyed this one. It was fun. I agree with Riot Kitty. I think it's a little disconnected from the first one. It felt more like a sequel to Captain America: Civil War than it did to Ant-Man. But I did have a good time. I enjoyed it, despite its flaws. I think it was a really good movie. Entertainment value is through the roof. Really good humor, really good action.
Oh no, I said it felt like a good sequel to the original. Like just
I thought you said it felt disjointed. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you.
Yeah, no. I was like, I felt like the character of Ghost is disjointed.
Okay. I apologize. I misunderstood you. But I think it's disjointed from the first one. I was saying like a sequel to Captain America: Civil War.
Yeah, I was saying like sorry.
It's all right.
Oh no, I was talking to my parents.
Oh.
No, I was talking to my parents. I woke up, but I thought like in comparison to like Iron Man 2 or like Thor: The Dark World, especially, like I thought it was like more of a sequel.
All right. And Kate, who bounced out for a second.
Yeah, that was weird. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. I don't know. Everything was fine, and then it just was like, you're out of the studio. But yeah, I would say I don't like want to be repetitive, but I think we all kind of agree on similar things. I would give it a 7 out of 10. I did think the villain was a little bit more boring in this movie than in the first one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the end like climactic action in the first one more than this one. It's not to say this was a bad movie per se, but they might have tried to fit a little bit too much into it, and the pacing was a little weird between backstory and character building and then the main plot. But overall, good movie, entertaining. I still like it on second, third, fourth watch. It's not I like the characters, I like the banter, I like the dialogue, and the visual effects were pretty cool. So yeah, solid 7 out of 10 for me.
All right. And I will agree on the 7 out of 10 objective and subjective, honestly, because while it is a step down from the original, I do believe that it still holds entertainment value. And according to Vanya, yeah, the movie doesn't really have a villain. It has a sympathetic character.
Perch, I guess, is the villain.
Yeah. So we have a corporate greedy bastard who is basically the villain in this movie.
Haven't seen that before.
Yeah, right. And to Hardwick Bentho, we actually skipped this, and I'm so glad he actually brought this up. It's on the Stan Lee cameo. Well, all that acid he did in the 60s is coming back to haunt him. Gotta say that I absolutely love that scene. Because it's like, holy crap. All that acid dropping from the 60s. That's catching up, man.
He thinks he's tripping balls.
Especially since
Yeah.
the quantum realm looks like an acid trip, so I thought it was funny.
Yeah, because the freaking car just shrinks right in front of him. Well, it's all catching up to me, man. What'd you want? Jacob? Thoughts on it?
Oh, I thought it was funny. I love a good Stan Lee cameo. It was pretty funny. And yes, I imagine he feels that way every time he's on a movie set or when he was on movie sets, he was always like, man, it's finally catching up to me to see all the CGI and whatnot, because he was hand drawing stuff with Steve Ditko. So I think that's pretty funny. It worked. It was a great scene. I loved it.
Yep. Alrighty. So did we cover everything? Yeah. Yeah. Alrighty. Next week is Captain Marvel. Tuesday I have my Dark Knight discussion at 1:30. Tuesday night is the Barroom Podcast on Society Reviews channel, where we'll be covering more Hollywood stuff of controversy. Wednesday night, I will be on the ones and twos with Mara. We are going to be talking Evil Dead with Bruce the Chin Campbell. Gotta love that movie. And then we're kicking off another Thursday singles with Dracula Untold on Thursday, folks. So, yeah, make sure you set all your reminders. I have my singles set up, as well as my Tuesday themed stream set up. So go to the playlists. Does anybody have anything they want to plug before we get going? I'll start with Riot.
Sure. My name is Riot Kitty, not the real Lady Thor. This is just for the MCU discussion streams. I've got a YouTube channel. While I am kind of taking a backseat from content right now, I do have I do have some videos up there. Most recently, a time lapse while I'm drawing a promotional image for my comic Dollhouse 60. I'm also working on a rewrite of the show Rupee, made by Rooster Teeth Animation, which is Underwater Brothers as well. So I hope you guys will check that out when it's out eventually. So thank you guys for watching this stream and stuff like that. So if you want, subscribe as well. I'm at 780 subs, so I'm 20 subs away from 800.
All right, nice. And Jake, anything to plug?
Head over to my YouTube channel as well. I'm next weekend is Batman Day. It's the 16th. So I'm going to be doing a bat themed, as you can see from behind me, I'm going to be doing a bat themed week. Not every video will be Batman, but as you can see, Batman will be one of the focuses. And also I'm going to be making a big announcement in one of my videos tomorrow. So I'm announcing this here first, Orange Hat. Your viewers can hear it. I'm making a big announcement about an upcoming project I'm doing. So you'll get to see that.
Alrighty. Make sure you guys tune into them. Alrighty. So
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Definitely will start subbing. Right, Kitty.
Alrighty.
I just noticed I wasn't subbed to you, so gotta fix that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Alrighty, so thank you to the
you
chat.
Too,
Vanya Hardwick, Riot Kitty. Thank you again to Vanya for the super chat. East Lindbergh Kohler, thank you for tuning in. Christian Freites, thank you for tuning in. Darth Gutierrez, thank you for tuning in. Y'all are freaking great people. Make sure that you, if you want to catch more of my content, I have playlists to help get my watch time up to 4,000 hours so I can start earning some ad revenue. Thank you to all who tune in. You guys are freaking amazing. If you want to support the channel, you can do so through super chats or super thanks. I'm not going to be doing memberships yet because, well, I haven't really thought of anything to do with memberships yet. So yeah, I'm not a fan of exclusivity for really much because, well, I've seen it go horribly wrong too many times. But anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to support the channel through super chats, you can if you want. It is not required. However, thank you so much. The best support you can do is sharing my content out and helping me get my watch time from 3,000 to 4,000. If you guys can do that, I will be the most grateful for that. Anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for next week. We got Captain Marvel. We will be talking about it because it is part of the Infinity Saga. Hopefully people will show up. I mean, yes, it's not the best movie, and a lot of us are not fans of it, but we will still discuss it.
At the very least, we'll roast it.
At the very least, we'll roast it, but I will also be bringing in some of its more positive aspects too, because that is what objective reviewers do. as Thor would say in a review context. Anyway, folks, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. And always remember to stay humble. And yeah, we are out.
Are you done? Are you done?